here, and we'll share our screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
All right, good.
Yes.
So the hilarity of this is that there's a code of civility. So we are going to have a new methodology so people can watch older versions of this. Earlier, for the first year, we allowed people to listen, but we think it's important for people to be able to see the presentations and graphics. So we're just about finished with setting that up. Of course, if you want additional information of any kind, hold your phone up here and scan this code, and it'll take you to our wildfire website. So you'll have an opportunity to be able to join us that way. And it's also useful for a couple of other kinds of things as well. So that's good that way. All right. So thank you for your patience. I really do appreciate it. So our opening remarks are, as we have an update on what we're doing with our Wildfire Alliance, our partnership with the LA City Fire Department related to wildfire, some good announcements related to fire safe councils and Firewise progress. We're going to have a nice presentation from a special guest from the LA City Fire Department on being deployed to a wildfire. What is that like? And I think you'll find that very interesting. And then most importantly, we're going to have some very important news on the ongoing insurance crisis. There is a glimmer of hope. I think we've got some very good progress to report finally. And Rob from the State Department of Insurance is going to be here to chat with us about that. So I'm really excited to hear from him, and we'll move it forward and see exactly what we can do as we get going. So having said that, let's move on. First thing to mention, I would invite everyone to take our wildfire survey. If you're familiar with the website, wildfirela.org, you can find the survey on the homepage, or you can put your phone at the QR code and it'll take you there directly, or take a screenshot and then look at it later. But this is a really good survey to get input from folks. We share it with our partners, both locally, LA City Fire, County Fire, and so on, but also with the state, with CAL FIRE and Cal OES. It's a really important thing for us to be able to let them know what people are thinking and how that's supposed to work. So having shared that, I am oh, sorry guys. Just removed one of the bad folks there. So let's get a Wildfire Alliance update. And we have Dante Cornejo, one of our wildfire specialists, and he's going to walk us through some of the very important new news that we have to share related to the Alliance and progress that we've made. Dante?
I don't see him on the list, David, on the participants.
I don't either. You should have been able to figure out how to get in. All right. So having said that, since I don't see him, I will proceed so that everyone knows what's going on. We're excited that the Bel Air Association is now a fire safe council. They joined the Brentwood Homeowners Association, which has been a fire safe council since early in the year. And Bel Air Ridge is very close to becoming one. We have multiple NFPA Firewise sites in the final application process. And Firewise is a really important distinction from Fire Safe Council because it is directly related to specific kinds of discounts. Although with the new changes in the state insurance infrastructure, a Fire Safe Council is likely to have some of these benefits as well. We have folks from both Bel Air Association and the Brentwood HOA with us. Thelma, are you on here?
I am.
Would you like to say a few words about your Fire Safe Council and your committee and what you guys are doing?
Sure. Thanks so much. So, yeah, we're excited that we are, moving forward, being a Fire Safe Council. And I think, like most people here, our goal was to prepare our community for the next wildfire. So we continue to educate our members on wildfire preparedness by disseminating information in lots of ways with emails, events, speakers, and handouts. And we are providing free home fire risk assessments to all of our members in conjunction with MySafe LA and Dante, who would be on here and tell you about it if he could.
Hi, everyone. Dante, can you hear me?
So make sure you're muted, please.
Okay.
Go ahead, Thelma.
Okay, sorry. And then just a few of the newer things that we're doing. We're expanding our emergency contact network and by linking all of our neighborhood WhatsApp groups with BHA so that we can coordinate emergency information in real time while it happens. In addition, we're coming up with new programs with the help of David and LAFD. And one of the first ones we're doing is a pilot program with the local students at Brentwood School. And we're getting them directly involved in activities that will help with community risk reduction. And then finally, based on the risk assessment performed in our boundaries to become a fire safe council, we're planning to create a 501c3 to obtain grant money to financially help with fuel reduction projects and homeowner training, which we realize we need to do based on that assessment. So, and then finally, we too are going to try and become a FireWise site, and it's ongoing, the application, but we're doing it. So anyway, and we thank MySafe LA because we could not do this without them.
So a couple things to add. And first of all, thank you very, very much for your comments. You can become a fire safe council if you are a nonprofit. However, in order to qualify for grants, you had to be a 501c3. You cannot be in any way, shape, or form aligned with political aspirations, and 501c4 and 501c7 don't qualify. It's a very unfortunate situation if you have become a fire safe council and you're not a 501c3, but creating one isn't that difficult. It takes a little bit of time to fill out the 1023 form. Also, Thelma, as the president of the Brentwood Homeowners Association, it's important to know that the entire association is now a fire safe council. But within that fire safe council, we could have 10, 15, 20 FireWise sites. So if we want to even go groups of 10 or 20 or 30 homes, that becomes easier to manage. And those groups of homes do not have to be a nonprofit organization. So kind of the umbrella of a fire safe council and then the spotlight on different FireWise sites. It's a really good way to look at managing how you might be able to make things work. So,
No, and exactly. And sorry, David, one other thing is that we've collaborated with Crestwood Hills, they were, ground zero for the Getty fire. So we're working with them to become a FireWise council and to do more things. And also becoming this 501c3 will help everybody within our boundaries and within the Brentwood community. So yes, we get it. That's why we're doing it.
That's absolutely fantastic. And we really appreciate it. It's terrific. Moving on, Bel Air Association has just been designated as a fire safe council. Do we have Christina or John or anyone from Bel Air online with us?
Yeah, Jonathan's here.
Okay, Jonathan, there you are. We'd love to hear from you for a moment and tell us a little bit about your new designation.
Well, we've been working hard with David and Carl and Dante for the last 4 or 5 months, and we were able to get the Fire Safe Council designation. And I mean, really, we couldn't have done it without MySafe LA. What you need to do is basically just jump through all the hoops and do what they say and comply with everything, and you make it happen. We've done a lot of fire hardening assessments on different homes in Bel Air, and we did that. We have an action plan. We have a committee. We do meetings. We have a 5-year plan, and we're working on a FireWise committee. What is the FireWise? It's a Fire Safe Council and a FireWise community. And really the main goal, not one of the main goals, of course, to make the community safer, but also with the insurance situation. And from what we hear is we make that FireWise community the folks in Bel Air will have a little better time getting insurance. So that's kind of where we're at. Really great working with everybody over at MySafe LA, and we're proud of the designation that we obtained.
That's terrific. Thank you very much, Jonathan. So before we move on to our first presentation, I just want to mention that if you live in any of these areas and you would like to have your home assessed for wildfire risk, you can reach out to Dante or to our organization, and we will come out and do an assessment for you at no charge. It's something that we do. We are certified by CAL FIRE to do these inspections, and we're very happy to be able to do it for you and to help you understand what steps you might need to take if you're going to make your home a little bit safer and more resilient. So let's move on now. I'd like to introduce Race Wickless. He's an engineer with the Los Angeles City Fire Department, and I can tell you that he is somebody who has a lot of experience with wildfire, and he's going to talk to us tonight about just exactly what happens when you get deployed to a wildfire. What are the things that happen? What is his role? How do we make that work? So, Race, if you're available, take it away. It's all yours.
All right, thank you for having me. Just wanted to, my introduction by David was great. I have been with the Los Angeles Fire Department just about 17 years, an engineer for about 7 years. And yeah, I just got a list of questions, a couple things that I want to describe what we, kind of how we get sent out, some real life experience of what we've done and what we've seen out there, different fires just from this current year. The first question was, what is a strike team? Strike team really depends on what type of apparatus is being sent out, but in particular, we do have an OES strike team that's assigned to the city. 1880 Charlie is its designator, and that's recognized statewide. So when we get ordered up, all 5 of those engines, which are type 3 or Charlie engines, form up, and we send a strike team leader, which is usually a battalion chief and also a trainee, so we can have a succession planning lined up for the future of our department. We'll get our marching orders from our dispatch center, which comes down through a couple different ways, and then we'll get sent out to pretty much anywhere in the state, and on rare occasions, neighboring states if the fire is bordering our border. Yeah, so our Charlie strike teams are 4-wheel drive, type 3 apparatus. They will hold 500 gallons of water. They are actually owned by the state. We own 1 in the city of Los Angeles. The other 5 are owned by the state, and we have an agreement with them that we will staff those, and we'll try and send them out to the incidents that they order them up on. Let's see here. Tasks that we may get when we go out there. It can vary from anything indirect to direct firefighting, structure protection, mop up, etc. Anything that you would anticipate actually being done on a fire. We can be formed up as a hand crew, which is really when we leave our engines behind, and we're just using the manpower with all of our members, which ends up being about 20 members, and we'll form up and do hand crew work that's typically very labor intensive and away from any kind of civilization, to be honest with you. But it doesn't end just there. We've also been used for floods, debris flows, any other natural disaster that the state thinks we can be used in. We'll get ordered up that same way. Me, as an engineer, I'm responsible for rig maintenance, driving, obviously the rig to wherever it needs to go, and also training my firefighters to be capable to do my job in case I need help, in case I get pulled away to do something else. And also as an engineer, I'm kind of the middle person between our captains and our firefighters. So at times I might be called up to act as a captain, and it's kind of our, like that succession plan I was talking about. We'll have a firefighter come up to the engineer spot, I'll go up to the captain spot, and so on and so forth. Back to the fires of this year. First fire I was deployed to was the Basin Fire up near Shaver Lake. Sorry.
Rescue only. A full. Rescue 839. 15152 West Victory Boulevard, Cross, North Columbus Avenue. Office. Channel 8. Metro clear.
Sorry, excuse the interruption. I am working right now, so I'm at a real life fire station, and it's a pretty busy spot here in Van Nuys. Anyways, this first picture there on the right with the column of smoke coming up out of the kind of that basin area is that was the Basin Fire. It's a very remote fire. Talking about where it was located it was near Shaver Lake. If you guys are familiar with that, it's not by any freeways. It's 2-lane roads up windy mountain roads to get there. And even our base camp, which is where we go back for our briefings or meals, we've got large sleep trailers, which is a semi-truck trailer that it sleeps about 60 people in there. And there's four high bunk beds on both sides, and we're all jammed in there. But that was about 2.5 hours away from where the actual fire was. So that's how far away we were from any kind of really amenities of any kind, even a gas station. So it was long drives in and out every day. It was triple digit heat. And the picture doesn't really do it as much justice as when you're hiking those hills. But it's very steep terrain, like I said, very remote. A lot of aircraft has worked on this, but we still need to get boots in the ground and ensure that the perimeters secured there. Our main mission on this one, right where we're at, is actually a very large communications tower and satellite dishes for all kinds of information. Part of our microwave system that transfers data all up and down the state, and then receiving information from all over the country, all over the world. So this was a very high dollar spot that they were worried about. So we prepped and defended that area until the fire was ultimately extinguished down to a percentage that they felt comfortable pulling us away. And once that happened, we went right over to Santa Barbara, straight from this spot, which are the other two pictures there. That was the lake fire near Los Olivos, which is it's north of Santa Barbara, kind of near Lake Cachuma, if you guys are familiar with that. And yeah, that was the same strike team. So we spent about a week at that first one, another week at the second one. That one was a very rapid moving fire. It's a lot larger than the first fire, that Basin Fire. But that was ultimately due to the lighter fuels and the wind that came in off the shore during the sundowners winds, is what we call those. So the fire had an opportunity to spread into some fuels that were a lot of dead California oaks. If we know about those a little bit, it's the state tree. It's illegal to cut those down without a special permit. So a lot of those trees just go untouched and unmaintained until they eventually fall, die, or burn up. So this particular area had a lot of those trees. There was a fungus that was going around killing a lot of those trees. So we just had a lot of fuel that was ready to burn. And with that dry summer we had this year in particular was interesting because we had a lot of really large fires early on in the season, and we really haven't had any wind at all. They've been, diurnal winds, which is like a daily wind, some seasonal winds coming from thunderstorms over the mountains, but we haven't had our Santa Ana winds yet. There is a red flag warning coming up from the northern part of the California right now, is in a red flag. It's supposed to work its way down a little bit this next few days, but that's the first wind event we've had since last year. And even last year, we didn't have any significant ones like we've had in the past, where we have 4, 5, 6 day wind events. So we've gotten pretty lucky, and it really comes down to these light flashy fuels like the grasses and the small bushes and things like that are going to just take off extremely fast with that wind. So that's where the aircraft comes in extremely important. With all of our 5 helicopters that we have in the city, all of county's helicopters, the ones on loan right now during the high peak seasons, are extremely important to try and grab hold of these things before they get going and turn into something a lot bigger than we can manage. Sorry, I know it's a lot to talk about, but what else do we have here? Impressions of the fire. We kind of already went into some of that. Just where it was, how remote it was. That first fire I didn't mention, the basin fire, that started with a lightning strike, and it was just real remote, so it was hard to get to, and that's why that kind of grew out a little bit. But ultimately, it stayed relatively small, about maybe 4,000 or 5,000 acres. That lake fire blew up a lot more. It was up around 60,000 acres, and that suppression repair for something that large is going to continue on for at least another year after the fire is extinguished. There's a lot that goes into that we don't even see. So could these fires occur in the LA area? So without wind, absolutely. We still have very remote areas within the city and the surrounding areas throughout all the counties around us. Even how densely populated the city is, we still have Griffith Park. We've got all the boundaries with A&F and our surrounding agencies into the Santa Monicas. There's multiple, wild urban interface, what we call them, where homes are right up into the fuels that can burn. And there's definitely a potential that we could see something like these fires close to here, and as we've seen in the past, right? From there, once the wind starts, now that's a whole different ballgame. No matter what we have, if we have a structure fire here in the city and we have a Santa Ana wind day with 50-mile-an-hour winds, we're worried about that spreading to other structures. So even a vacant lot that's overgrown, with a small fire that starts there, it can easily spread out and cause damage or property loss to neighboring houses or apartment complexes just from an empty lot. So it doesn't need to be a remote area where these grass fires or brush fires can start. Let's see here. As far as what people on these particular two fires, what people could have done to better prepare, not a whole lot you can do to prepare for a lightning strike in the middle of a remote area. However, the roads that we took to get out there were extremely overgrown, not maintained for many years. A lot of those are old logging roads, but they're considered fire roads, access for us to get out there. But there's really not the time or the money to maintain those like they should be. So it was very slow driving. Like I said, it was 2.5 hours. It was about an hour to get to the dirt road and then another 1.5 hours to get to where we needed to be, just because it was so slow. We're going 5 to 10 miles an hour that whole time. So maintenance of the roads and the forest in general would drastically help that. At the lake fire, same thing. Like I mentioned, they had that fungus taking over a lot of those California oak trees that ultimately, unless you're allowed to either mitigate those trees, which would end up being cutting some of those down at a point when they're not able to be saved, which is far above my pay grade. But it's just something that you're not going to stop that at a certain point, and they become a danger as well. They fall. Oaks are very heavy trees. They come down, they block roads, they stop our access from being able to get in. So we're spending a lot of time just cutting up a tree or trying to move a tree so we can even get to a fire. So a lot of this stuff comes down to access more than anything. And if we can maintain those access roads, that drastically will help. That's pretty much what I have as far as the questions written down. Dave, was there anything else that?
Yeah, I think the one other thing that might be interesting to talk about a little bit is not the atmospheric heat from just the temperature, but the radiant heat that gets and the ability to create weather from the fire itself.
Sure. Yeah, well, there was another fire I actually went to beginning of August. It was the Burrell fire, which was up near Lake Isabella, just a little south of where that basin fire was. And I didn't go as a engine on that fire. I went as our regional task force 9, which is California has task forces throughout the state that are formed up and identified. as a resource that we can use anytime there's a special need for urban search and rescue type deployment. And I am part of that. So we got called in a kind of a different mode that we normally get activated on to go to this city of Havilah, a small town, but it was completely devastated. There was no structures left, and our job was to go in there and search for any remains, whether it was animal, whether it was human, anything viable, anything to identify what had burned, because it was a complete loss. So, but also being there, we knew the fire moved fast, and I've heard of these fire tornadoes. I've been on fires where there's the National Weather Service has confirmed that there was a fire tornado, but I've never seen what that actually was. And I grew up in the Midwest, so I've seen an actual tornado, but not a fire tornado. This one in particular, in Havilah, there was, it's a mountainous area, but you've got good 24 to 36 inch round pines throughout this whole town. And you could see where the trees were snapped in half, where this fire tornado came down. And there was a couple of witnesses that rode out the fire who said this fire would stand straight up, and then it would lay down and just blow like crazy, and they could hear trees snapping and embers went everywhere, and that's what spotted that fire to the next spot. And it would do that it would stand up, and then it would lay down for a few minutes and then stand back up again. It kept doing that back and forth. And when it was laying down, it was actually a tornado. So the National Weather Service said that there was a fire tornado there, and the destruction was pretty interesting. You've got a lightly burnt tree on the exterior with that fresh wood on the inside. It's just the tree snapped in half, so you can really see how that affected that. And then the tops of these trees, they're about 70 feet high. And the very tops of the trees, the leaves were almost untouched. But the middle part and that low part where the wind was coming up those canyons, everything was gone. Everything was just down to ash. So the way that fire can progress is pretty amazing. Really, it's completely devastating, but it's an amazing phenomenon that can happen when the conditions are right, going up those canyons with the wind, with the fuel and everything else. So
yeah. Does anyone have any questions for Engineer Wickless for Race? Use the hands up little icon so we can find you. All right, good. Well, Race, thank you so much for being a part of our evening. And
You've got it.
This information is very important to share with folks. Remember, oh, there's Peter Julian. He's using his real hand, not the
Yeah,
Zoom
thank you.
hand, but that's
No,
okay.
I'm using my real hand.
Yeah, go ahead, Peter.
One of the issues that we've discussed at Brentwood homeowners before is the subject of early detection. And with all of these fires, you have a handle on, was it observed, were there mountain cameras, were there drones, was it personal observation? How did this information get to the firefighters?
Are you talking about like to get our situational awareness when we show up, kind of where the fire's at and what it's doing and which direction?
Well, actually, even earlier than that, when there is a noticeable fire, how was somebody in the fire system notified about the presence of the fire?
One of the biggest, most beneficial kind of feats of technology that has been implemented in the last few years and has really taken off and become almost like confirming that these fires are happening is through University of San Diego. UCSD, UCSD, and there's so many schools down there. And their system has cameras all over the state. There's hundreds of cameras. I use them all the time. I'm actually part of a Cal Fire incident management team, and I have some access to that. But we confirm fires with that all the time. And I did talk to the dispatcher, a captain who's a dispatcher for Santa Barbara County who took the call for this lake fire in Santa Barbara. He's a good friend of mine. And he said that was the first thing he did was he got on that website, checked out the camera, looked and said, oh yeah, we do have a fire. And just to confirm what the caller had stated. And from there, now they have a confirmed fire, they can see it, and they launch a full response from the LP Forest and also Santa Barbara County on that one. And then they immediately ordered up, because they are a contract county with CAL FIRE, they immediately ordered up aircraft from CAL FIRE because they had confirmed fire. So from the get-go, we'll try and get eyes on whatever we can. And I mean, those cameras, they pick up things, they identify what they think might be a fire, might be smoke. And then once it's confirmed, the color changes on their website, the actual camera, and it shows the direction it's looking. But it picks up things like a sunset sometimes that is just they're the right glare, and the camera picks it up thinking it might be a fire. Or there's a cloud that's floating by, might think it's some smoke, things like that. But it's unconfirmed until there's either a call in or somebody actually looks at that. I saw right here what the name of that website is. Let me see if I have that.
So while you're looking for that, Peter and everyone, what Engineer Wickless is talking about is from the University of California in San Diego, UCSD. It's called Alert California is the program. There are 1,080 cameras currently deployed. They can look out about 60 miles, and they can do a 360-degree spin, and they can look out about 120 miles at night. The riskiest time for false alarms, as Race mentioned, is at sundown when the sun is right on the horizon. It can fool the cameras, but there's a lot of progress being made. There's also an app that firefighters can use called wildfire, which helps them identify things. And as we've talked about in previous sessions, there's a fantastic app that the public can use as well as firefighters called Watch Duty. Watch Duty is a very, very effective. You can pick out several counties for free, or you can purchase statewide access. And anytime there's a start of any kind, you'll get notified. And if you pay for the annual fee, you'll get every operational period report. You'll be able to see all aerial resources, both fixed and rotor wing, in the air, just see where they are in real time. It's a magnificent app. And the trick to it is that the developer of this app, who is a former software guy who created this nonprofit organization, he has staffed a newsroom. It's essentially like an emergency operations center, but it's with journalists. So anytime there's a start that gets reported, for example, from Alert California, they assign a reporter to it so that all the notifications that go out, at least currently, are coming from a human being. There might be an artificial intelligence aspect to this in the near future, but right now it's from a human being, and it is extremely valuable, and certainly was very useful in Southern California during the airport fire, the bridge fire, and the line fire. So, Grace, if you want to add to that, go ahead.
No, yeah, I think you nailed it. Thanks for remembering what that website was called, because I forgot. It is a very valuable tool, just for our situational awareness, because we start seeing, especially in July and August, and those thunderheads popping up over all the mountains and all that moisture. It detects those lightning strike fires way quicker than what we can, or wait for somebody to call it in, or depending on somebody to staff a fire lookout. That is, very few of those are even staffed anymore to detect a fire. So we are getting notified a lot faster than ever before. And everybody's got a cell phone, so nobody has to find a quarter to go to a payphone or go to find a landline somewhere anymore. We're definitely getting notified quicker, but this is just next level, even better.
Terrific. Anyone else have questions for Engineer Wickless? Use the raised hand for Zoom so that we can find you. Otherwise, we might miss you. Palma.
I don't know where to find that little hand, but I guess you can find this one.
We were lucky.
Thank you. Okay. what I would like to comment on is the speaker's comment on how difficult it was to get to the fire at Shaver Lake because of all the dry vegetation along the road. And I mentioned before that I live up at the top of Chevy Chase Canyon, and every day I go up and down to Pasadena on Linda Vista, passing the Pasadena Arts Center. And what I consistently notice is that the city of Pasadena is cutting back less and less on the dry roadside vegetation. It used to be 10 feet. Now it's a maximum of 5 feet. And I just hold my breath going down thinking, oh my God, if this is like one of the few ways that I have to exit in case of a wildfire, I would have burning embers on either side of the road going down that way. And I ask you, I want to compliment the Glendale Fire Department for doing an exceptional job this year in Chevy Chase Canyon, not only cutting back 10 feet, but going back 15 feet on our roads up here in Chevy Chase Canyon. So I'd like to know who we can get in touch with and why different cities in Pasadena, and why different cities aren't just more responsible for cutting back really dry vegetation, not only for residents to get out, but for firefighters to come in.
Palma, I would suggest that you send an email to Dante Cornejo. His email is in the chat.
Okay,
And send him an email, and then we will send you that information directly.
thank you.
You're welcome. Sarah Jane, would you like to ask a question?
Yes, I had a question about evacuations in the Hollywood Hills, and mainly the East Hollywood Hills. We have Griffith Park and bordered by commercial Hollywood. And there's a tremendous amount of density being built in Hollywood itself. At the same time, they're doing road diets. And if you could speak at all about concerns about how they're ever going to be able to evacuate the Hollywood Hills, that's all a very high fire severity zone. If you can only go south, and south, they keep putting in more density.
So Sarah Jane, let me just jump in here. The fire department is not responsible for evacuations. That is the Los Angeles Police Department and CHP and sheriff, depending on the location. So any evacuation efforts would be managed. They would be directed to evacuate by fire, but it would be the law branch that would be responsible for actually evacuating you. So I'm not trying to cut off Engineer Wickless, but it's something that's really important to distinguish between, and we're going to have the lieutenant in charge of emergency operations for LAPD as a guest in one of the coming months, and she'll be able to talk about this more. And when we meet with homeowners associations, we can discuss the value of evacuation issues as well, since we work with both law and fire. So, Race, if you want to add something to that, please do. But I just want to let Sarah Jane know it's a law issue.
Once we've declared in the city that it is a red flag, and you'll see those at all the fire stations, a small red flag that we fly underneath the American flag. That's in case you weren't notified, you didn't see it on the news, or you weren't notified over the radio or TV or whatever it might be. If you see that red flag flying, then we are in a red flag declaration within the city, which means we're going to limit parking up and down those narrow roads, especially on the south side where you're talking about of the Hollywood Hills, where it's a older community than the valley side, and the streets are smaller and it's more compact. That's definitely a concern that we have, and we're actually instructed to, on those days, to drive the hills and make sure that there is access, that all vehicles have been moved, and if not, then we'll notify DOT, and they'll aid us in towing those vehicles, because exactly what you said, that is our biggest concern with the wind-driven fire in the hills and within anywhere in the Santa Monica's, is exactly that, is evacuation of all the civilians. And at the same time, us getting up, which causes a problem. So it is definitely has not gone unnoticed, and they're just the pre-planning that we do and the hopefully preparation by the media to let people know that they cannot park on those streets during those times is those are our number one goals.
And keep in mind,
Thank you.
everyone, keep in mind for Sarah Jane and everyone here, there's actually, we're talking about two types of red flag. So the National Weather Service has red flag warnings, which are related to burn index and humidity and so on. But the city of Los Angeles has red flag parking warnings, and that's what Engineer Wickless is talking about right now. And they are specifically designed for those tight, twisty roads in the Hollywood Hills and other places where there are a lot of canyon access, where there are challenges with getting apparatus up while people are potentially trying to get out. So if you see like a no parking sign, you'll see where red flag notifications may take place. They do not happen that often. I think they've only been issued twice in the last 5 years, but notwithstanding that, they could be issued 5 times in the next month. So you need to be aware of them and understand the difference. So red flag warning from the National Weather Service versus red flag parking from the city of Los Angeles.
And Paula, I don't have anything specific to your area, but I just obviously know LA a little better than the rest of the surrounding areas. But I'm sure that there's some sort of similar plan in those areas.
All right, we have time for one more question before we move on. Jay Palmer. Unmute yourself, Jay.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Very good. This whole meeting is pretty much structured around fires that are existing and how to deal with those and how to get away from fires. And I walk a lot in the Sylmar Hills area, and I see these fires that are just ready to start because the brush is not cleared by the freeways. It isn't cleared on the other side of the fence from the freeways, which is then the city part. And if I've sent letters, and I am the chairman of the Public Safety Committee of the Sylmar Neighborhood Council, and I've raised my red flag about this stuff, and I get zero response. And and I know that all the RVs that are parked that cause fires in themselves, which are up against the brush, is a super accident waiting to happen, and it drives me crazy. And if anybody has some input on how to deal with this stuff, let me know, because I'm all ears and I will do the work.
So one thing that we can share with you, Jay, and for anyone else that has concerns about brush or lack of clearance of vegetation along main arteries, main roads, once again, reach out to Dante Cornejo. We are working with Cal OES to secure financing to remove that stuff. We have some very good relationships with entities that can do this. It's simply a matter of finding the money to do it. The mayor's office is also very concerned about this. It isn't a fire department responsibility in terms of clearing freeway and main artery roads, but it isn't something that they are ignorant to as well. They know about it, and it takes a team effort to try and solve this. So particularly in your role related to a neighborhood council, we would love to come and talk to you about some possible solutions that would be working within the jurisdiction of your NC.
Yeah, we have a good relationship with the fire department there, who has to deal with all of this stuff after what I know is going to happen happens.
Right.
And it's unfortunate, and it's very dangerous for everybody involved. But so it is a frustrating situation. I need to just put it out there.
Understood. Thank you, Jay.
All right, thank you.
All right, everybody. It's time for us to, first of all, thank Engineer Wickless. Thank you. Really appreciate your participation tonight. If you have the ability to listen to the insurance stuff, please do. If you've got to run, you can do that as well. Our insurance update
You got it. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity, and appreciate all the questions and the hospitality. Thank you.
You're welcome. Glad to see you. Would love to have you again. Rob Obadoza, are you with us, Rob?
I am here.
Perfect. We're going to get some really good information from Rob now. Thank you for your patience as we have pulled this together for you. And what I would like to suggest is that you share your screen.
Yeah, do you mind stopping your screen share so that I can share mine?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, um, so as Dave mentioned, my name is Rob Obedoza. I'm with the Department of Insurance. I'm the outreach analyst for about half of LA County, Ventura County, and Santa Barbara County, and I'm here to provide an update on kind of the state of the insurance market, along with some of the solutions and help that's coming along the way through certain changes and regulations coming pretty soon by the Department of Insurance and Insurance Commissioner Laura. So I'm going to quickly go through kind of what's called the Sustainable Insurance Strategy, which is a set of tools and regulations designed to help modernize our insurance market. One of the first goals of modernizing the insurance market is providing accessible insurance for Californians, meaning providing you with more options in the insurance market where there really aren't options available at this time. And we want to create a resilient insurance market so those options stay available for the near future and in the far future. And our goal is also to protect communities from climate change. So quickly, just to go over how we got here with the current insurance market, along with pretty much everything else that's been going up in price lately, inflation has created unprecedented financial stress, in particular to the insurance market. And not just inflation, because also cost of rebuilding, supplies, materials, labor shortages, rising home values is affecting the insurance market across the board, whether it's through the homeowners market, auto insurance, life insurance, health insurance, everything is going up. In addition to that, reinsurance is harder to find and is costlier as catastrophes grow around the world. So right now, reinsurance is basically what insurance carriers use to protect themselves against claims that they need to pay out. And right now, they're finding that harder and harder to find and even more expensive. And as insurance carriers are taking on additional risk, and as these risks grows, we're watching the insurance market start to shrink, where insurance companies are not writing new policies or pulling out of certain areas and protecting the customers that they already have. In California specifically, 12 of the hundreds of companies that are admitted carriers within the state of California, the 12 top companies control 85% of the state's homeowners market. And of those top 12 companies since 2022, 7 of those top 12 insurance companies have either paused or restricted new business despite rate increases approved or pending with the Department of Insurance. So even if they are increasing rates, we're still finding them pulling back from certain markets, not expanding policy coverage or writing a lot of cancellations or non-renewals. So it's simply not a factor. It's not just a factor of raising rates. There's also the whole other side of risk assessment that goes along with that as well. And kind of this little graphic shows the top 12 companies by market share in the state of California. And it's the typical names you've heard, like State Farm, Farmers, Mercury, Allstate, and so forth. And you can see how some of those since 2022 paused new policies or limited new policies, even with pending or approved rates through the department. So again, it's not just a matter of increasing rates. We're also going to talk about assessing risk more accurately for the insurance department, for insurance companies as well. So a little more California context. Over the past 10 years, homeowners insurance companies have done far worse in California than nationally. So basically by any metric, because of these past 10 years, California has suffered some of its most devastating wildfires in the state's histories. And right now, insurance companies have to factor that in to their future risk assessment and losses. So they're just going to assume that's going to keep happening again and again and again in the future, unless certain changes are going to come about, which we're going to talk about. But I will say, even though, these rates are increasing pretty exponentially in these past few years, the commissioner has said that on average, the percentage rates are still kind of on average with compared to the rest of the company. The issue with the price increases is also because of the home prices being a lot higher here than in other parts of the country, and we're still doing a lot better than certain other states as well, like Florida and Texas, where they've got a lot of insurance issues going on in those areas as well. So a couple quick points on how we got here as well. So right now, one of the biggest indicators of this current insurance market is the Fair Plan's increase in market share. About 5 years ago, nobody really even heard of the Fair Plan. It was the insurer of the last resort for super high risk properties where they couldn't find insurance anywhere else. But as these companies are starting to pull back from certain markets, canceling or non-renewing policyholders, we're finding homeowners, not necessarily super high risk, but just risky in general, flooding towards the Fair Plan because there's no options available out there for them for those wildfire insurance policies. So we've seen that Fair Plan growth 3% up to 4% actually. Currently, the slide's a little outdated, so it's going to continue to grow and grow. And, you know, one of the key indicators is we don't want a growing Fair Plan to continue growing because the Fair Plan is not really a state agency, although it was put in the legislature by the state of California. The Fair Plan is actually owned and operated and supervised by the top insurance companies in the state of California. So as risk gets concentrated in the Fair Plan, and the possibility of a catastrophic wildfire happens in the state of California, the odds that the Fair Plan could possibly go insolvent and the insurance companies would be off on the hook for those losses, further exacerbating the current insurance market, which makes things even worse and worse. But I will say we're not really at that point where the Fair Plan will be insolvent, but we just don't want it to keep heading that way. And, you know, with the increasing risk and the changes in the insurance market, credit agencies have begun to downgrade outlooks for some of the largest companies in the state of California, like State Farm, AAA, and Mercury, due to risk concentration in California. And unlike public utilities, where they're required to provide certain services and utilities across to everybody, insurance companies are not required to write insurance policies for homeowners at any point. So no matter what we do, no matter how safe you make your home, no matter what changes we make, we can't compel an insurance company to write that policy in any area, and they won't write those policies in high-risk areas unless they can cover 100% of their consumer claims, their expenses, and earn a fair amount of return. Also, further exacerbating the insurance crisis is the rate filing process right now is currently complex and takes longer than 6 months to review. And California is unique in the United States due to Prop 103, which allows what's called an intervener process, where insurance companies have to go through the state of California, through the Department of Insurance, to apply for rate increases. And you know, as long as they meet certain requirements under Prop 103, we will approve those rate increases or those rate filings, provided they meet certain underwriting and solvency rules. But with the intervener process, the public or third parties on behalf of the public can file an appeal for those rate increases and have that go under public review. And those reviews can take quite some time, 12 months, 18 months to finally be resolved. By that point, that risk profile, those risk assessments, those rates are already a year and a half old. These companies will need to apply for new rates and kind of go through the cycle again and again, and they're playing catch up with the insurance market. So we're looking to kind of get that down to a more reasonable time frame. So with this, so now that we've talked a little bit about how we got to this place, let's talk about some of the upcoming changes that are coming down the road with this sustainable insurance strategy. So one of the biggest things that part of this insurance strategy is there's certain rules and regulations that these insurance companies that have been asking for quite some time now that are being done in other states, but not in California. But in exchange for these companies to be able to use these new risk assessment tools, these new regulations, they have to commit to writing no less than 85% of their statewide market share in distressed areas as identified by the insurance commissioner. So basically what's going to happen is in those high risk areas, where the Fair Plan is the majority of the policyholders, or people are unable to find those policies because of high fire risk, these insurance companies must write at least 85% of those policies within those high risk areas. And we also understand that smaller companies, because like I said, there's hundreds of companies in the state of California, not just the State Farms and the all states that are writing policies in California. And we understand that some of those companies would not be able to meet that 85% threshold. We have them committed to at least a growth of 5% every year to make sure that they're increasing their market share steadily in those high risk areas, in order to be able to use these tools that we're going to talk about a little bit. And our first priority is to return FAIR Plan policyholders to the open market. As I mentioned, the FAIR Plan is getting more and more saturated. Our first priority is to move people back off the FAIR Plan into that open insurance market by bringing in more insurance options. And with with some of these changes and regulations, priority will be given to those homeowners who have been following those safer from wildfire regulations. I know organizations such as Firewise Communities and MySafe LA are aware of those safer from wildfire regulations. And basically, in these new regulations, these insurance companies will have to factor in homes that are a part of a Firewise community, homes that have done that 5-foot defensible space, homes that have that right roofing, and take that into account when evaluating their risk. So again, our goal is to get people off of the FAIR Plan into the open insurance market, with priority given to those who have been following those safer from wildfires regulations. Catastrophe models and mitigation is kind of the biggest thing that modernization project that we've been working on to modernize the insurance market. So I mentioned earlier that currently the insurance companies, or in the past 10 years, the insurance companies have suffered some of their biggest losses in the state's history due to some of the most devastating wildfires in our state's history. And right now, the way insurance companies have to assess risk in California is using what's called a historical model, where they take the last 10 years of data and assume that's going to keep happening again and again in the future, and use that to calculate their risk and their losses down the road. And as I said, they're going to keep assuming that those devastating wildfires are going to keep happening unless they can have a different way to assess risk. And this is where catastrophe modeling comes in. Catastrophe modeling is a more data-driven, future-looking approach, which starts to take into account the actual mitigation that's being done by homeowners, the mitigations that's being done by communities, such as Firewise and fire risk reduction communities, the reduction that's being done by fire departments, organizations like MySafe LA, CAL FIRE, and across the state, and use that into their risk processing. So it's going to modernize, and they'll be able to, rather than classify huge swaths of zip codes as risky or not, they're going to be able to look individually at each property and assign a risk for each property a little more granularly based on the mitigation that's been done with that property itself. And with this has become the question of, okay, if we're allowing these companies to use these new modeling, what do we as consumers get out of it? What type of transparency is there going to be? How do I know that they are taking my 5-foot defensible space and my being part of a Firewise community actually into their risk profiling? And the answer right now is there's not really a way for us to see how they're going to be using that data in those new modeling, because I do some of the public hearings and the public reviews for some of these regulations that have been coming up. And whenever we have those public hearings, we've got organizations on both sides of the fence arguing for and against catastrophe modeling and some of those changes that are coming up. And the biggest term that keeps getting thrown up is what are called black boxes, where these risk models are basically products developed by actuarial firms like Verisk and Aon, and they're proprietary models. Of course, they're not going to be releasing that data publicly because that's basically how those companies make their money. So we as California consumers, there's not really going to be transparency with how they use that data. So the commissioner has taken it a step further and has proposed a public risk model. So we are, the Department of Insurance, Commissioner Lara, and has partnered with the Humboldt State University to start developing a public risk model for California wildfires only. It would be the first wildfire public model in the nation, fully transparent, be able up for public review, so we know exactly how our data is being used in calculating these risk modeling. And this is something that is going to be written into the regulations. We expect some sub-models and suggestions to be submitted to the commissioner within the next year or so. But I will say the development of these public models is going to take some time. The only other public risk model that's out there right now was being done in Florida based on hurricanes. And, with the hurricanes right now, we're going to see how the effects of those models are going to take a look at with those, with the current hurricanes and their insurance market. But when Florida implemented that public plan, it took them about 5 years to fully finalize. So we're in the early steps in getting that public process available. So when these changes are going to be implemented, it's going to be most likely be insurance companies using proprietary models, and then eventually we will transition over to the California only risk modeling. And we also don't want to ignore the FAIR plan. We also want the FAIR plan to still be a viable option for certain homeowners or certain high-risk properties who, even if we open up the insurance market, cannot find additional coverage. So we're looking at expanding commercial coverage limits to 20 million per structure, which closes coverage gaps for HOAs, affordable housing, and infill developments. And I know currently the FAIR plan covers a maximum, I believe, $3 million for its individual households. And I believe the commissioner is looking to increase that as well. In addition to that, we're looking to increase transparency with the FAIR plan. Again, more data, more transparency, better customer service as well. And a lot of these changes have come about from us at the Department of Insurance meeting with communities and every county within the state, statewide. So Commissioner Lara and us at the Department of Insurance, we've met with more than 122,000 consumers in person and virtually, such as yourselves, since 2019. We've held more than 1,800 meetings, town halls, events throughout the county and the state, because we understand that all of these changes are going to be affecting everyone in the state of California. And we also understand that each community, each homeowners association, each town hall is going to have different challenges as far as insurance goes with their communities. And we want to figure out what's going to be the best solution for everyone across the state. So a couple other benefits as far as what's coming up down the road. Again, we mentioned earlier that it's taken quite some time to update and rate filings with these companies due to the current intervener process. We are looking to update those rate review timelines and get that down to a more reasonable timeline of possibly 3 to 6 months. We want to improve the rate filing procedures as process. As I mentioned, through the intervener process, the public can request public review of those rate filings, but we want to streamline that process, because when those appeals come in, they usually, what happens is they will file for an appeal for those rate filings and then gather the data for their appeal. So from what the changes are going to be is we are going to request that they have their information complete before they file an appeal, so that can cut down on the time frame of processing. But also, we won't go through the appeal process unless they have significant changes from what the Department of Insurance has found. We talked about the changing of the risk assessment tools, especially with catastrophe modeling, which allows for long-term sustainability of coverage and rates. But we're also exploring what's called California-only reinsurance regulation to protect consumers from paying costs of other global catastrophes. So I mentioned earlier that insurance companies are finding expensive reinsurance options to protect themselves from the claims they've got to pay out. And right now, those reinsurance costs are taking into account global catastrophes. So all those hurricanes you're seeing on the East Coast in Florida, those are being factored into the rate filings and the reinsurance costs. So one of the next steps that's going to be coming pretty soon is California, is the commissioner exploring California only reinsurance regulations, so that California consumers are not paying for the cost of disasters happening in other parts of the country. The risk and those costs are only being based on California alone. In the next month or so, there's most likely going to be a public hearing for feedback. So I will make sure to update your organization when that happens. And I strongly encourage everyone to register, listen in, read through the regulations, provide your public feedback, because again, like I said, a lot of this information and a lot of these changes are based on suggestions and thoughts provided by consumers across the state of California. We'd love to hear what you think. And again, I mentioned about increased transparency for interveners, which is slowing the rate filing process. So like I said, prior to making those filings, they're going to need to make sure that information is publicly available and complete before going through that process. So as far as an all hands on deck approach with the Department of Insurance, again, our main goal is to make this insurance market more sustainable and affordable for all California consumers. So we do retain control of the regulatory process. So on rate review and with the catastrophe modeling, guaranteeing public input and compliancy with transparency laws. As I said, we are looking into a public model for the state of California, which will be open for public review. Companies can only utilize these new tools if they increase their writing and set clear targets to depopulate the FAIR plan. So like I said, if these companies want to use these updated and modern tools they've been asking for, they've got to commit to writing policies in those high risk areas and moving people off of the FAIR plan back into the open insurance market. We continue to retain filing controls. So any changes to the regulations or updates, we still control the approval process. But also part of the approval process, like I mentioned, in order for these companies to use these new tools, they're going to have to take into account the mitigation, the safer from wildfires, the firewise communities. They're going to need to take that into account when setting risk profiles. We are also hiring additional staff to beef up our actuarial division, which, because we expect a lot of these catastrophe modeling and rate filings to be changing pretty quickly over the next year. So we're beefing up our actuarial staff. Our deputy commissioner, every time she does presentations, she's always asking anyone in the crowd, if you know any actuaries, have them come talk to us. We are continuing to hiring actuaries to make sure we can continue on with this process. And again, we want to continue with providing updates and keeping this process transparent. So we want to provide you with periodic reviews on the insurance availability, rulemakings, and the FAIR plan depopulation efforts. And some of these steps have already been put into place. We've talked about the Safer from Wildfires framework, which helps you protect your structure, your surroundings, and being part of a firewise or fire risk reduction communities, which also offers first in the nation insurance discounts, where if you're by simply being part of a firewise community or having certain mitigation steps on your home, your insurance company is required to give you certain discounts on your fire insurance policy. And there's also, especially for those of you on the FAIR plan, they offer significant discounts by just simply sending in your Firewise certificate or being part of a Firewise community. We're also looking to expand FAIR plan coverage for agribusiness, outdoor, and recreation businesses. And like I said, we still want the FAIR plan to be a viable option. So we want to continue to modernize the FAIR plan as well. And we've also, as far as our climate response goes, created the first climate and sustainability branch in the country. We've established a climate insurance working group generating California's first ever California or climate insurance report. We've also partnered with the United Nations to launch California's sustainable insurance roadmap. Now, let's talk timelines though. All of these changes, the commissioner has committed to getting these regulations done by December 2024. And we anticipate to see the insurance markets open up and movement in the insurance market and availability by the middle of next year. And, even though these regulations won't be done until the end of this year and implemented essentially January 1st, we've already seen movement and communication from some of the largest insurance companies in California committing to some of these changes because they know that we've been working with them to make sure that they can continue, doing business here in California. So, for example, Allstate, one of the largest carriers in California, has gone on record saying that if these regulations were in place today, they would start writing policies across the state the very next day. They know these changes are coming. They have been working with us in communication and understand that these changes are coming, and they want to hit the ground running as well. Farmers, another one of the largest companies in California, they've already opened up certain business in their commercial and their condo policies as well. Mercury Insurance, one of the other largest companies in the state of California, a few months back, one of the smaller companies called Tokyo Marine, they announced that they were pulling out of California and closing 12,000 policies across the state of California. That same day, we got a call from Mercury Insurance saying that, we understand that these changes are coming down the road. We are going to go ahead and pick up those 12,000 policies, transition them into over our business because we understand that we will be able to continue keeping these policies with these changes down the road. The only one that we haven't really gotten too much moving on is State Farm. They are the largest company in the state of California, but I will say I don't think they have announced too many new non-renewals or cancellations like they had earlier this year. So we're hoping to see some movement with them as well. But like I said, help is on the way. It's still going to take some time. It's not going to happen overnight, but the Department of Insurance is working hard to make sure that we can get these options back onto the insurance market, which hopefully will lead to affordability insurance market and give you those options again that we had in the past, while also protecting everybody from wildfires and decreasing the risk in your homes. So that's everything that I have for now. Again, thank you for your time. I'm here to answer any questions. David, was there anything else you wanted me to cover before we close things out?
No, I think we're in good shape overall with that. What I think would be important for us to talk about a couple of quick things. First of all, if you need to reach the California Department of Insurance, which is a very important place for you to get new information and to stay in touch, there's a QR code here that you could point your phone at. Or take a screenshot and grab it later, but this will get you directly to the California Department of Insurance. So before we open it up to any questions, I want to just talk about a couple of few things that Rob touched on and kind of expand on them briefly. So State Farm, I've had some meetings with them, and I can tell you that they're very likely to come back because this is such a large insurance market. But right now, they're recouping losses by not offering insurance here. And so they might be one of the last to come back. But overall, after listening to all of this, there's probably some important questions that people have, which is one, I need insurance today. I can't wait 6 months or 9 months. Two, I want affordable insurance. I don't want to be paying $20,000 or $30,000 a year. And three, I need coverage beyond what the FAIR plan can provide. So let me address those briefly, then Rob can add to that. So first of all, the California Department of Insurance focuses primarily on insurance companies that are admitted into the state of California. There are other entities that are not admitted into the state of California, and most of them do offer wildfire insurance. It's very important, if you're going to investigate unadmitted companies, to look for those that are very stable and that have policy coverage that is perhaps international in scope. So as one example, Lloyd's of London is a very reputable company. It's not admitted in California. They have just set up a California specific branch for this type of thing. So it is an option for you to get insurance, but it is expensive. If you need insurance now, I think it's very important that you consider an insurance broker. That's their job, is to find insurance for you. And insurance is a complicated issue, but it's something that even as we look into this new policy and structure coming into play in early 2025, you still want to do some investigation and challenge checking. So as an example, with the discounts that Rob has been talking about, we know some folks that have found a company willing to give them a 3% discount, but when they talk to a different company, it's a 12% discount. And the numbers can add up to be very different. So it's worth your effort and time to be able to make sure that you're able to seek a really good option for yourself. Secondly, if your insurance is not renewed or is canceled, you have the ability in most cases to dispute that. And so this is where being a FireWise participant, being part of a FireSafe Council, and taking actions to defend your home are so important. The discounts that Rob has been talking about are different than the FireWise discounts that the NFPA oversees. The NFPA discounts are kind of a fixed rate 5 or 8 or 10% discount depending on the coverage. In California, we're talking about incremental discounting. So for example, if you've got a good roof and you've got Zone 1 and Zone 2 are properly cleared, but Zone 0 still has some issues, you won't get the maximum discount, but you'll get some level of discount. So it's very important to be able to understand that the more you can do. So when we talk to you about Zone 0, Zone 1, and Zone 2, we don't want you to think, oh my goodness, I have to spend $100,000 fixing my house. We can start with almost no cost, making sure that your gutters are clear and that you've got proper screen mesh on all of your vents and that sort of thing. And that's where a wildfire home inspection that we perform for free becomes so valuable. So as we move forward, the last thing is, well, if I have to take these steps and the insurance companies want rate raises, sometimes as much as 30 or 40%, how am I going to find affordable insurance? And the answer to that is that the State Department of Insurance, CDI, is focusing on bringing multiple insurers back into the state, and it looks like they are willing to do so based on this new forward-looking catastrophe modeling. Remember, catastrophe modeling is very different than historic. So if we were in the year 2000 and we were looking back to 1990, in that decade, there were not significant wildfires creating significant losses. But if we're in 2022 and we're looking back to 2012, the greatest losses in the history of the state of California. And so what insurance companies were doing was they were blacklisting entire zip codes. They were cutting out places where they thought there was any level of risk because what they had seen. But what they didn't understand, and in many cases still do not understand, that when a wildfire burns through an area, in part, that's a good thing for not the community's residents, but for nature, for the wildland, because that's how new growth starts. And when you have a wildfire like that, the chance of it renewing or taking place again is 20, 30, 40 years down the road. It's not going to burn again typically in 2 or 3 years. So it's very important that we look at that forward modeling. So when we use that method, and insurance companies can use that to set their rates, then we have 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 insurance providers here in the state offering insurance, which leads to something called competition. And the competition is what is going to drive costs down so that you can get affordable insurance once again. And finally, for those of you that are on the FAIR plan, it is something, but it's not everything. And you need to think about taking care of your structure, because the end goal is not just to have insurance, it's to lower the ignitability of your home. I can tell you, having been deployed out to the airport fire a couple of weeks ago, we saw several homes that were completely surrounded by burn scar that were untouched because they were properly defended, both the structure and the land for 100 feet in every direction. But 150 feet away in each direction were homes that were totally destroyed. So this is proof that if you take these steps to lower the ignitability of your home, the chances of saving your home increase dramatically. We also need to work on making sure that your neighbors do the same thing, because radiant heat can be one of the most deadly things to your home. It's not the fire front, it's embers and radiant heat. Those are the two things to be most concerned about. So the FAIR plan can provide you with short-term success. Don't look at that as here's my new insurance. Because if there is a disastrous fire like the Camp Fire, everyone remembers Paradise in 2018, the FAIR plan will not be able to pay you. If we look at just the evacuations in Wrightwood during the line fire 3 weeks ago, the FAIR plan exposure there was in the tens of billions of dollars, but they can only pay out a maximum of about $5 billion now. So they wouldn't have been able to actually resolve insurance claims if a Camp Fire style disaster, a mega fire, had occurred here in Southern California, or anywhere in the state for that matter. So it's help on the way. That's the most important thing that we wanted everyone to know tonight, that there's a new policy in place, that the people at CDI are completely dedicated to finding a good solution. This is not just a political architecture that they're looking at. They're looking at reworking how all of this works. All right, having said all that, I imagine people have questions for Rob, and we've got about 15 minutes, so we will open it up to people. Please use the raise your hand option in Zoom. It should be there for you to find under your participants, or the more option. And we will ask you to be able to ask your question. Anybody? It's a lot of information, so it may be something that you just need to absorb for a little bit. Rob, is there anything you want to add after I Off.
No, no, I'm sure it's probably just getting late. Everyone's kind of tired. I know it's getting late for me as well. It's been a long day, but no, no. I mean, you summarize it great. You know, right now there's not a lot of options for everyone, and competition will be a good thing. I mean, I just think about, you know, back before we had this insurance crisis, about, you know, the best way to kind of lower your insurance rates was to shop around and get quotes from everywhere. And that happened to me. Like when I was shopping around for car insurance before, I would just request several quotes online. And even without calling my current insurance company, they would come back with a renewal offer with a discount because they knew I was shopping around. But that's not happening anymore because there's not that competition for your dollar right now. So our goal, like Dave said, is to get the market back and competing again. And you know, also forgot to mention, you know, with several of the wildfires that happened recently, you know, the commissioner also has the power to do an insurance moratorium to protect consumers and those affected by those wildfires that have been evacuated. I know we declared a moratorium of 1 year for insurance companies from dropping or non-renewing policyholders in those affected areas by the airport fire. The what were the other ones that just happened? Airport
Line
fire,
fire, bridge fire.
bridge fire. Yeah. So we just released several zip codes that were affected by that. So, but yeah, you know, help is on the way, and I do see some hands up. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where we'll start is Mary Robinson wrote into the chat, what does hardened property mean and how do I find out my status? Once again, send an email to Dante Cornejo at mysafela.org, and we will talk with you offline and help you understand those things. Also, if this is your first time attending one of these meetings, we do them on the third Thursday of every month, except for November and January. And we have guests like Rob and like Engineer Wickless. We have people from all different kinds of walks of life that are subject matter experts to talk about defending your home. Last month, for example, we talked about native plants versus invasive species and what are the real issues of ember casts and how does that affect your home. So Mary, please write to Dante and we will get back to you. Thelma.
Thanks, David. So this was really great, Rob and David. It's nice to know help is on the way, but like David said, it doesn't help my members who the majority do not are facing cancellations, non-renewals. So my question to you is this. Everyone, it seems, if they have their insurance, has gotten that notice showing them, here's a picture of your house. You need to do this, this, and this. And before you can even do it or before you can even respond, they go ahead and cancel your policy. So my question to you is this, how do you challenge an insurance company? And what can your department do to help my members who are facing this problem over and over again?
Sure. No, that's a great question. So this applies to admitted carriers. So like, you know, David mentioned earlier, you know, there's a lot of options with non-admitted carriers like Lloyd's of London and things like that, and they operate on a whole different set of rules. They can do that. They can cancel you. They'll charge whatever they want, and we don't really have control over that. But for those companies or those policyholders who are with admitted carriers like the State Farms, Farmers, Allstates, and things like that, you can actually go through an appeal process if you are being non-renewed or canceled or received a notice of review. So part of the Safer from Wildfires regulations is insurance companies are required to give you what's called your wildfire risk score, which is kind of like a credit report, which is they use to determine your risk profile for your property based on your wildfire risk. And it's like a list of several different items that they're saying that needs to be improved on your property in order for them to continue providing for you with insurance. And under those regulations, they're required to give it to you under 4 certain scenarios. One is when you are filing for or signing up for a new policy with an insurance carrier. Second is when you receive a renewal letter. Third is when you receive a cancellation or non-renewal letter. And fourth is when you've done some mitigation on your property and you want a reevaluation from your for that wildfire risk score, you can request that as well. Now, this kind of goes over with the other part is we've heard stories of companies saying they don't know what we're talking about. They don't know that they're supposed to give that out. They say that's proprietary information, that they're not allowed to give that out. That's when you come to us. So in addition to, you know, setting up the regulations and these changes overall for the California insurance market, we are also the consumer advocate with the insurance companies for California's consumers. So if they're not giving your wildfire risk score, if you feel you're unjustly being canceled, give us a call, pay us a visit on our website, file an appeal. We've got insurance experts all the time being able to work with you and who can communicate with the insurance company on your behalf and make sure they're following those rules and regulations properly, getting you those wildfire risk scores, understanding what's going on with your insurance process. That's pretty much the majority of what we do as well, is being your consumer advocate. So definitely you've got some issues with your insurance company, they're playing games with you, or you're having issues, give us a call and we're here to help you out.
And by the
Okay,
way,
thank
everyone, the CBI has a policy that if you call and you have to leave a message, that they will call you back within 5 minutes or so. So it's a very quick turnaround on getting back to you. So keep in mind that if you leave a message, it doesn't mean you're going to wait a week for someone to get back to you.
Yeah.
Okay, and that phone number is found on your website then?
It is. Just
Okay.
CBI.ca or insurance.ca.gov. It should be right there. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah, because it was Mercury Insurance who sent this letter, and before the homeowner could even respond and prove that they had hardened, zone 0 is basically what everybody wants to enforce now, even though it's
Yeah.
not, required yet, but it will be. They didn't even have a chance to do it before they were canceled. So
And they're also supposed to give them proper notice as well. I think it's like 90 days before
It is
cancel.
90 days.
So, yeah, it is
Yeah,
90
they didn't-
days. Yeah.
And that's the other thing, the letter had no time frame. They didn't know it was 90 days. I don't really know what happened, but I just wanted to give them some information, and thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.
Mary Robinson, do you still want to ask a question?
Yes, yes, please. Thank you for everything. This is my first meeting, so I can't write as fast as everybody is talking, and I'm way behind. As I understand what you said previously, any questions I have, I should send to Dante Cornejo. Is that Cornejo? Is that correct?
Dante Cornejo, and his
And-
email is in the chat. Can you find the chat in your Zoom window?
No, I'm having trouble with all of that. I'm sorry. Could you just give it to me real quick?
Yes, it'll be my first name, Dante, dot,
Yeah.
my last name, Cornejo,
Cornejo. Okay.
Cornejo.
Okay, I'll just Cornejo. Yes.
That is correct. At MySafe, MySafeLA.org.
And all the questions, and you would be the right person to talk about what a Firewise community certificate, et cetera, you're the right person to talk to about that. Would that be correct?
That is correct.
And do you have a phone number?
Yes. But
Why don't you let's give our main number out, which is 213.
I'm sorry, you broke up. 213
634 0100.
Thank you very much. I won't go any further with my questions. I'll direct them more directly to Dante. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. All right, everyone, we do not have a meeting in November. Our next meeting will be December the 19th, and we very much look forward to seeing you there. It's going to be a recap of the year. We hope to have another Fire Safe Council announcement, and we're going to be showing you some of the new things that we've got going. We have a new educational film, which is a 7-minute film about how to make your property safer and to lower its ignitability and to comply with zone 1, 2, and 0. We have some new PSAs. We've got some new printed materials for folks. We plan on doing at least one more wildfire safety fair before the end of the year. So there's a lot of stuff still happening, not to mention all of the inspections we're doing. So hang in there. If you need help, don't hesitate to call us. We're busy, but we will get back to you and we will be as responsive as we possibly can be. And thank you very much for attending tonight. Be safe out there. Keep your eyes open, and we'll talk to you again in 60 days. Take it easy. Bye, everybody.